Can we start coming in now if we finish eating? Hello, Teza. Yeah, if we can fill up the front seats as well, if we, so that we can network more. Yeah, yeah. No, no, it's good. Trust me. No, no, nothing to worry about. Hope the meal is good. Hope the food is good. Oh, great, great. So again, if you finished eating, can we make our way in? If you finished eating, if you finished eating, let's make our way in. How was the meal? How was the food? Was good? Yeah, great stuff. So again, let's um, let's go for power session now. So again, this is going to be an interesting session whereby we're going to have various presentations and very interesting presentations. You guys are going to love it, and we're going to showcase some innovation as well. So fasten your seatbelt. And to start this session, I would like to welcome John Kamara, CEO and founder at Danian Lab, to take us through the PDI model. Thank you. John?
Hi again, everyone. So I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes just talking about what we mean by PDI. Um, Based on the question that I had asked earlier on, most people have been through the digital transformation journey over time, right? I think the past 10 years, a lot of organizations and people have been through digital transformation, which is a conventional paradigm around the infrastructure. But what I want to talk about is let's stay with the current present day and where AI sits in the fourth industrial revolution. So a couple of the speakers talked about the opportunity for job creation in AI, the role of governance and ethics, the things that we have to do. But there is a significant part of everything that has to do with AI, which is people. Not everyone's going to be an AI engineer. Not everyone's going to be lucky to be a data scientist. Not everyone's going to be lucky to be somebody in technology who has a direct job in AI, right? So we can only create so much. But there's still billions of people on Earth who have to become part of this significant transformational change. So, and the places where these jobs are created, it's in organizations. Jobs don't just happen. Somebody has to create the job. And if the person creating the job does not see the significant value of the human, that is only AI that can do it, then we have a serious problem, don't we? We have a serious problem because, we'll have a whole new society. So the PDI model, when we first started looking at the foundation of digital transformation, in my view, is most organizations that I've worked for, you think about this big, massive architectural change, right? We have to digitize our whole world. So what do we have to do first? Get in the CTO, get in the chief digital officer if you have one, get in the chief data officer if you have one, and then just go on this architectural madness. Let's just figure out how we architect this transformation we're going to build. So this technology has to speak to this one. We have to figure out interoperability, right? We have to figure out all these things. And then we build this massive, 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 amazing, beautiful technology. So that's the first thing. Most organizations that I've worked with. Then most times you think, well, we're going to collect some data, so let's just get this BI tool from Microsoft or IBM, right? Let's get some Google Analytics inside it. Then maybe let's just build some small other, so all those things. Then at the end of the day, you say to yourself, well, my marketing team, my sales team, and probably the tech guys need to know how to use this platform. So most times, the tech guy pretty much knows how to use the platform very well. The finance guy is completely disconnected, doesn't care. What's the bottom line? Is it gonna make us more money? Okay. How much money is it gonna make us? That's all I care about. But why, how? Then the receptionist is sitting there by herself and thinking, what is happening? Am I gonna lose my job? Right? The CEO is there thinking, this is great. We've just transformed the whole organization. We're now a digital company. We have 60 apps. Then our customers have to figure out 60 apps. Right? It's like people are just building, we need another app to complement that other app. Then we need AI to add into all these apps to do the same thing. And obviously, at the end of the day, it's all to gear towards what are the key business drivers of the organization. Key business drivers. We want to make more money. We want to grow. And we want to use technology to show that we can build a growth-driven organization. So the question then is, what is a data-driven organization? It's a question. I like questions. Anyone, what is a data-driven organization? What would you say is a data-driven organization? Because to achieve AI, you need to become a data-driven organization, right? Would you give it the mic?
So before you spoke on data being people and people's information, so I'd assume a people-driven organization.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much very close to what it is to be a data-driven, or I'm not a digital organization. You could be a fully digital organization where everything is digitized, there's no paper. That doesn't mean you're technically a data-driven organization. Two different concepts, but they can be well confused to mean the same thing. So the problem that means then is, yes, go on.
Okay.
Please.
So I was thinking data-driven organization is like an organization that's comparing their data, like they take records of everything and keep statistics of it, and then they need to improve on it. So they use that to know where they are headed in terms of they always compare their data and analyze it from time to time.
Very good. And one of the things that I would sort of give you an example is, if you think about banks, for example, right? We all bank. You have a card, you have a mortgage, you have a car loan, probably have another loan, and you have just multiple different things. And most of the time, when they engage with you, each person engages with you in a silo, right? They engage with you in a silo. It happens to me all the time with my bank. They engage with me in silos. They say, oh, we'll give you more insurance for your car, or we'll give you more credit card status. I'm like, but I owe this other guy's money. why are you giving me this stuff? Because they only see one part of my data. But I'm the same person across the whole network because they are divided into multiple different organizations under the umbrella of one organization. But what's happening today is a lot of the banks are also now saying, well, let's consolidate our data so that we can understand Richard better across the whole vertical. Then we can create a personalized engine to do personalized transactions for him. So that we know that at 4 a.m. in the morning, that's when Richard wakes up. And that's the only time we'll send him a product. For the rest of the day, we won't contact him. Right? It's not very easy. Why? Because on day one, they never thought about data. They thought about digitizing and transforming digitally what they did. Now, to connect all those data costs you billions of dollars, like a lot of money. And these are like big organizations. And I can give you multiple examples of big organizations. So, but then what happens is, a lot of the organizations didn't think about the front office, which is the customer. So I then go back into the same organization and ask the finance guy, well, do you see the direct correlation between what you do and the sales guy? It's like, no, not really. I'm a finance guy. Okay, do you see a direct correlation between what you do and the customer who buys a thing for £1? No, I just do the inventory. So bring me back to what I wanted to talk about, PDI. Without a customer, what is possible? Without a customer, what is possible? So if you walk into a hospital, the hospital has digitized the whole thing. I mean, massive, great infrastructure, buildings, everything, technology, and all the doctors are standing there waiting. What are they waiting for? The first patient to come in. You need this thing to, if there's no patient, if nobody comes in, there's no transaction. There's no transaction of data. There's no information, there's no knowledge. So until the first patient comes in, obviously all of us are patients, 8 billion people. It just depends when your journey starts. Everyone is a patient. So until the first transaction happens, it's just a bunch of infrastructure you've built. It's a great big technology. It's great AI. It's, you built your own learning engine. But at the same time, when we talked about all the people who work in that organization who are not necessarily technical, you also see the fear they have in the fact that as you start introducing all this technology, what is a sustainable outcome for those people themselves? Right? So it's a big, so the idea of PDI, when I started thinking about how do you look at a way where people are really the center of what we do. And there's a number of different reasons for that. It's not only because of AI, but it's because it's important, not just for governance, ethics, but to maintain an equilibrium in a world that is changing consistently, where we're able to change people at the same pace. We're able to change people. So organizational drivers have to change because PDI focuses on the people first instead of the infrastructure first. So we want to transform ourselves as an organization. The idea is let's all sit down as people, including receptionists. What do we need to do? Where is everybody in the journey of this transformation? Do you understand why we're transforming this organization? I went into an organization once and I asked everyone, what do they understand by data? 10 different answers from 10 different people who work in the organization. So that already means that whatever you transform, you probably only get less than 40% of the real value. But because you don't know the real value you can get, you would think that you've actually gotten massive value out of it. And then when the people come into play, most people will only probably use 10 to 15% of the same value of the transformation that you've done. So you still decrease to less than 25% of any real value that you can actually get. So everyone in the organization has a different answer for why they are transforming. So if everyone already has a different answer, what do you expect will happen? They will transform. They probably make more money than they did before. But is that truly the value of the transformation that they've gone through? Then at the same time, the people in the organization also do not understand their role in the data play. Am I a data champion in my organization? What is my role in the data play? What part of the architecture do I fit into? So, at least in Africa, where people use platforms, somebody would say, well, you know, I don't really care. I just collect the first name and the second name. And this guy says, I collect the second name and the third name. I just collect one part of the mobile number and the second part. We've just digitized. But each one of those sequence of things that everyone does means that when we start talking about integrity of data and data that can be used, what is half useless? You still have to go back, and that's why you have to go back and clean the data and try to figure out if it makes sense, because everybody in the organization understood differently why. So that's one. The second part is why PDI is also important when you focus around people is the people, when you now start talking about transformational change like AI, where do the people sit? I am a marketing person, an organization. Very good example about a copywriter. I had an example the other day where the organization said, well, we actually use ChatGPT to build all our press release. We don't think we're gonna need the marketing team anymore. Serious, this is actually a real life story. The boss called me, said, yeah, we just did the whole thing. Look at it. It looks amazing. And this person used to spend days and weeks just trying to tell us that we couldn't do this stuff. So the first thing they're thinking, cut the marketing person. You know, cut the guys who work in the media team. The guys who work in the media team are thinking, what am I gonna do next? So, but if the organization was thinking, well, this is great, you know, ChatGPT, but it's not really, ChatGPT is not gonna transform your company. ChatGPT is not gonna understand the context of your company. ChatGPT is not gonna create the creative value for your company when you talk about customer experience. It's just going to generalize for you what a press release looks like for a company that looks like yours. That's all it's going to do. So, where is the value of making sure that the people in the organization understand how to use ChatGPT better? So there's a lot of great marketing tools that your marketing team can use. So, and how they can become data exponents for your organization so you can actually grow much better. Then the same thing, we had the same meeting, and the CTO was like, my boss doesn't want to invest in technology at all. He doesn't want to invest in data. So I had a meeting with the boss, and he said, well, I don't really see the value. We're already making money. Why should we go and spend all this money building this data infrastructure? But the point was, again, his position of data was completely different from the CTO. He was just thinking, bottom line, is this data thing going to make me $1 extra? Or should I fire someone to make $1 extra? And the finance guy said, well, we can make money if we fire someone. It's also making money, right? So there's different ways of looking at money. So, but at the end of the day, showing him the commercial value of data, that's all that mattered to him. It wasn't about taking him through a data science process or taking him through, no, it's just commercial value of data. If you do X, and we collect this data, it's gonna be worth X to your organization based on this. It's like, I like that, let's sign off. Why isn't the guy explaining it to me that way before? Because how he understands data is different. So plotting that data architecture, we call it the ratio, the people-data ratio in an organization. Understanding where that stands means also as an organization, you can assess people and actually provide the equilibrium required to maintain a positive engineering for the staff that you have. Which means your company or your organization starts the journey of transformation with people first. So you're transforming people, and you're making people data champion, and you're also preparing people for the journey ahead, and you're preparing people to be part of the revolutionary revenue generating option. So what it means is a lot of people in your organization will start seeing how they can contribute as data champions. People in your organization would also start using tools around data and actually start becoming real exponents of data. So now, when you go into the next phase, which is the data side, you've already gotten the people. And you've shown them how the connected world works around them, from reception all the way to finance. You guys are connected. You're connected. There's no difference between you. All of you are connected. It's just nobody's ever plotted the graph of how you connect within that organization. Because the data string leads from you all the way and leads from you back. So once it's done, then it's, okay, what is the data part of our organization? What do we need to do? Let's think about data holistically. Where does it come in? Okay, there's a customer. So most people always think the customer. But there's data that inside your organization. There's actually data that is inside your organization that is relevant to the data of the customer itself, your people. So without understanding, and then when you think about data first before the customer, then you also start thinking, where else does my customer go? What else do they do? So back to the theory of one customer. It's like a sniper hitting the customer with so many different things. People are just sniping at the same one person. That person can only handle so much in a day. The theory of one customer, it's one person that we're all going after. So once you start thinking, where else does this person go? What else do they do? How do they engage with outside my product? How do they engage with outside my world? You start expanding the architecture of data that you're looking at around that customer, which means you start expanding how you think about your business and say, these are the partnerships that we could actually do, that we could also drag in data that could even help our business. So you start really looking at the framework of data so much differently before you even think about what is it that I'm going to build. That's the last thing you're going to do. Then you also start thinking, well, I want to do AI later on. How should I collect this data? I want to use AI. How should I collect this data? Are my systems structured? Am I able to collect? Can I collect external data when I build infrastructure? Maybe I'm doing healthcare. Can I collect climate data to see? So you start thinking about data and the impact it has, not one spectrum of data, not your own sector, other spectrums of data, the impact it has. Because when I add climate data to healthcare, there's something completely different. It tells me something completely different. But if I can collect it properly on day one, if I can trick through it, that even if I'm not thinking about it on day one, but I've thought about it, that on day 2, day 3, when I'm ready for it, my framework is built to accommodate it. So you think about data. And when you think about data, you close your eyes and you see all these little spots that constitute this massive individualized data lakes, because everybody's now infrastructure. One human being is an infrastructure. One human being is a data lake. So if you now connect all those data lakes together, you're connected human beings. Because it's still human beings. Anything until we eradicate human beings from the world, it is still about human beings. AI will still be about human beings, serving humans better, helping humans do things better, helping with humans fight wars better, helping, whatever it is humans better, right? AI is not helping AI be AI better. That's all it is. It's helping humans. So that means there's so many different ways it's going to go help humans. That means that same human being interacts with all those different things. I come on a plane, I've taken a car, I've gone to the coffee shop. It's like all little footprints of data around me that's just been scattered everywhere today. So, and then in that same thing, because your people are first, between you and your people, you can really think through how the day one of your transformation looks around data, which is your data transformation first. You're going to be digital anyway, so that's a given. That's not even a thing you have to worry about. You've already made that decision there. So the idea is, the data transformation is the overarching thought process before you go into your digital transformation framework. To say, now, what infrastructure are we going to build? What are we going to build? Is it an app? Is it a multi-layer system? Is it a complex dynamic? Whatever it is, all those great other stuff. Is it multiple algorithms? But those are just infrastructure. You need to find the engine. Think about it, building a car. You have to find the engine first. And before that, there's the whole architecture where the designer sits and is just designing before saying, okay, let's go to the factory and this is how the car is going to look. This is the kind of materials we're going to use. But when we think about the material first, that's what normally happens in a lot of this stuff. And by the time you come to that place where you've thought about the material first, you've already limited everything else you're going to do. But you don't know that because you're coming from a place where you were doing something in a certain way. So any success you get makes you assume that I've succeeded massively. But what AI is telling us now is, for you to use me very well, you need good data. You need to be ready for me. You need to be structured for me. Or else I'm going to cost you a ton of money. Or you're not going to be able to use me. So, in this world where a lot of organizations now want to engage in AI, how you transform that organization is a critical part of either the success of your AI implementation or not. And the people are a critical part because that also means how you transform your people in that same organization. So which means you come into a company where people are not afraid that I'm going to lose my job. People are much more saying, I know how to do my job better with these tools that we are going to deploy. So, you know what? Data science guy, go build that amazing tool. I'm ready for it. So, an organization that is people-driven with a core architecture of data leads you into an AI world where you can truly achieve the exponential growth that AI will offer you, which also include the CEO of the company saying, bottom line, makes sense. And I've still been able to hire 300 people. And I still deployed AI. Wouldn't that be a great world? Consistently. Because we're going to keep creating people, right? So where are the jobs of those people if we consistently decide that people have to be eliminated in this process of digital transformation? So my philosophy is that if you think about the people as the fundamental basis for any transformation, that means here, everybody in the organization is transformed. I went into an organization once, and one of the salespeople says to me, we just have an app. I don't even know what it does. I just sell it. But I sell it well, and I make money. Now, think about if the salesperson had said, you know what this app does for us as an organization, not even about to the customer, because there's two stages. There is you internally, and then there is a customer. And you are both connected. You're both connected. There's no one person saying, oh, it's just, no, because it's coming from you into your customer. Whatever technology you're selling on is coming from you first. So if you're not your own customer, so imagine if you understood why. Every time he went to the customer, he'd be able to say, you know what, this is what we need to do better in our organization. And this is how our organization can actually help you better. But this is how we can help our organization better. So, but people are so disconnected in organizations when they transform that everybody is at a different place in their understanding of why the organization has transformed. It doesn't mean everybody has to be transformative. No. But everybody, it would be great if everyone was just able to understand why. Their position, their role as a data champion within the organization, why it's important, and then what the data means to them, to their organization, and to their customer. Then we move into a place where human artificial general intelligence, because the human now is a huge part of that intelligence. So that is really the concept of the PDI model: people, data, infrastructure. And we, working with a number of organizations, as they go through their transformation, to say, don't just transform, think about the people first. And when you think about the people, think about the data, and then when you finish, go find some amazing person to build you the technology. That's not the difficult side anymore. Because even the person building you the technology would have seen the mentality of your thought process. Because you're no longer building for today, you're building for the future. Because that's what AI is. AI is the future now, because it keeps changing. So that you're no longer just building for solving this problem of taking this here, you're building for the problem that I might have 10 of this later on. So let me be ready for that. So when the time comes, I save myself money. Because it's also a way to make sure that you are, how you spend in your organization, you can actually count the value of every dollar that you've actually spent. People. People are the most important part. Without people, there is no organization. And understanding the data culture of an organization in relation to the people is a critical part of the success of how you're going to go into the world where you truly want to use AI. And that is when we will stop saying to people that a lot of people out there who are afraid that they're going to lose their jobs. So we start thinking about them before we go through this journey. And when we do that, we will carry them along with us. Because those of us who are in the forefront of AI, like, next year I can go get a better job. I can go get a better job. I can get a better job that pays me more money, so I'm okay. But what about the guy who works at Macy's? When they introduce the new AI solution and nobody is revamping that knowledge or counting them within an organization that they are truly important to how that tool would better serve the organization. That is why we want a lot of organizations to truly look at, instead of the IDP model where infrastructure, why the guy goes and says, let's just use ChatGPT and cut out the marketing guy, because it's just thinking infrastructure. What is the AI infrastructure we need to use? Boom, next thing, we're gonna have a problem in the world. So that's the model, PDI, people, data, infrastructure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, John. Well said. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. We'll be jumping into another set of the presentation. This is going to be a very interactive session as well. So I would like to welcome Troy. So Troy has got a fantastic presentation for us. Troy is from the Museum of Diversity. So again, he'll be showcasing his presentation, and hope you guys enjoy that. And it's gonna be interactive. So again, some of you might have to put on one of those goggles. So I know we're not doing too good with time because, again, we started a bit late due to the weather. So, again, unforeseen circumstance. But, however, we would try and finish as quick and as early as we can. So apologies for that. Just thought I'd let you guys know. But, we would be as quick as we can. Thank you very much. Are you ready, Troy? So again, I've had a couple of chat with Troy on several occasions. So again, we're trying to see what we can craft out. Nice to have you on stage. If you just want to tell us a little bit about yourself and just jump into the presentation, 10 minutes.
So good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. My name is Troy Richards. I was born in Jamaica. I migrated to England in 1997, and I'm now living between England and Atlanta. My journey is that I grew up blowing the trumpet, and we celebrate the birthday of Marcus Garvey every August. And going to a Marcus Garvey parade, the only thing I knew about him was that he's a national hero, and that was his birthday. It's only when I migrated and came to England in my late 20s, mid-late 20s, I'm starting to learn about who Marcus Garvey is. Quote, it's in the room. The quote says, and that's what I came across. It says, a people without the knowledge of their origin, past, or culture is like a tree without roots. And so, as I listen to John, it resonates with everything that I'm about. I'm an accountant by profession, ACCA. I've worked for the Ministry of Health. I was the management accountant at Fulham Football Club. I've worked in the city. I've managed school. I've done so many things, but I still didn't know who I was. I was searching for something that I just couldn't find. And it's when I came across the story of an Englishman, Sir Francis Drake. I end up actually setting up a museum in central London. It's through Drake's story that I started to learn about my story. I started to learn about the Cimarroons, which is where the Maroon tribe came from. And I started to learn more about the Caribbean and the transatlantic slave trade and all sorts of history that I never knew of. Ultimately, I started to recognize the importance of my origin, which is Africa. I believe if I knew about my history at a very young age, up to 19, 20, I would be a different person and at a different place in my life. So Sherwin, when you're giving the bit of history lesson, thank you very much. It is everything that you were talking about, and ultimately it actually connects what I'm saying about AI and what you're talking about trust. It is another part of our history why there's no trust, because the church infiltrates our tribes in Africa, and that's how they break down the family structure, and that's why we have a problem now. So now going to the point of people and AI. Let's blend it. You talk about infrastructure, that room, the virtual headsets, it's just the infrastructure. Let's talk about the data. The data is what we can collect from people going into the room. The data is the historic data that's there that we need to disseminate. But ultimately, what we need to do is to develop the people. We need to change the mindset of every young boys and girls that's growing up today. We need to get them to start to think, how do I create? How do I innovate? And so we design a concept which has three models. The first part is a mentorship. We need to mentor our young people about values, ethics, purpose, identity, everything to do with their history and their culture. That's what we need to do first and develop the individual. Then we need to take them into leadership, develop leaders for tomorrow, for the creation, for the innovation. We need to develop them, let them start to think about leadership. And finally, we need to think about entrepreneurship. Yes, entrepreneurship. We own nothing, and you said it. If you look at education, we don't own schools, particularly look in the UK. And even America, very few. When we look at food, we don't own our own food, our own clothing company. And you've seen more of that happening now, but the scale in which we are in operation of our own sector, our own Caribbean, African food, we do not own it. Asian food. And so we need to start to get our young people to create, to build, to think of business, think of ownership. And that's our model in terms of using the virtual space. We deliver programs in New York, Portugal, Jamaica, of course in the UK, We work with University of West Indies, South Bank. We're networking universities. You can jump from one room to the next. You can learn about each other. We're using the space to connect the individuals so that they can share story. We've developed exhibition around innovators, scholars. In fact, I don't even want to focus on purely famous individuals. I would like to focus on someone like John and what he's doing, and someone like Sherwin and what he's doing. People who can inspire others. That is my objective. It's changing the mindset of the next generation that's coming up. And so my legacy is, how do and I gave up the city life, and that's why I was telling you who I work for. I could have been earning a six-figure salary, if not more. But I gave that up because I realized once I learned about my history and the importance of learning our history, I gave that up. And I commit my life, the rest of my life, in order to achieve this. The final point I'd like to make is, Mr. John mentioned it also, everything is connected. We are all connected. And so if you look at the roof of the building, the roofs symbolize connectivity. It is the hexagon, which is the strongest shape. It is the honeycomb, which represents community. It represents network. It represents coming together. And I could have a brilliant idea here, but it won't happen, at least not till its fullest, without you and you and you and you. We must come together, whether it be in cells, bigger groups, smaller groups. We must come together for the change to happen. The world is changing, and we need to change with it, and we need to change rapidly with the world. Africa is one of the largest community of young people, average age group of 20, and so we need to inspire those young people. Can you go to the video, and let me just close there. So some of you might be scholars. Most young people, they're not reading, and so that's how I use the data. I'm trying to understand how young people work and what they think. And so they're not reading enough, number one. And also, those who are reading, the concentration span is very short, the new social media and so forth. So we have to make how they engage with content very interested, sharp. And so we're looking at creating short animations that engage them. And with that animation, we can take it to levels and layers where they want to learn more about their history and so forth. So this is just an animation which looks at how do we start to inspire these young people to be the superheroes of Africa, that they are the next generation, and to start to think how do they overcome the challenges that they're dealing with and tell their story within this space. And so we designed this space where every individual, every young people, and this is how we work with schools, they actually go into the space. You can pan to the left slightly, pan to the left, and go to education section. Yep, we have young people, when we go into schools, a bit more to the left, keep on going. Yeah, education, good. So you see, we go into schools, we teach them, they actually curate their own story, whatever is it they want to talk about, and then they actually create the story within the space, and then they will share it with other schools. We believe it or not, this school in America, for example, we saw some immediate links with the civil rights movements in America and the Windrush story here. So there are things that we are learning from it as well, and they're also seeing the similarities. Most of them never knew about the Windrush story, again, maybe because they're in America, but regardless, there are similarities in our history and how interconnected we are. So that's just one aspect of what we're doing. We of course focus on diversity and disenfranchised people. We are, up to 2019, only 23% of Africans had access to the internet. That increased in 2022 to 43% now, but the world average is only 69%. UK and America is almost 100%, 93 and 97% respectively. So we have to start to get our young people, how do we catch up? How do we get to where the rest of the world is? So the world is changing, and we need to change with it. This platform is just a means of connecting individuals to see how we can get our young people to start to change. and meet the demands that's there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Troy. That was fantastic. Thank you very much. I would like to welcome to the stage Michael from Dusted. So again, if you just want to share about Dusted and introduce yourself to us quickly for 5 minutes before we then go to the final panel.
Okay, so my name's Michael Livingstone. I'm a founder of a startup based in Manchester. And I always want to try and take an opportunity to get some data. So just to reaffirm my assumptions. Okay, so can everyone in the room put your hand up if you have your friends and family's phone numbers in your phone? Okay, so that's virtually almost 100%. Femi? So keep your hands up, please, or just here. Keep your hands up if you have immediate access to their postal address details. Immediate access. Keep your hands up. You are not my customer. Okay, so you guys have proven out my statistic. 80% of people do not have immediate access to the address details of their closest friends and family members. Now, what does this mean? So, if I want to send a gift to a close family member, a surprise gift, because I don't know their address details, I'm probably going to have to ruin the surprise by either sending a text, searching back through my social media, seeing if I've got their address details somewhere. It could be wrong. They could have moved. So how do I get that address? And that was a problem that I had when I was, first of all, I'm an SME. I've been an entrepreneur for 30 odd years, and I was actually in hospitality before I actually came into technology. And I was a really bad friend. I worked late nights. I was so focused on my business that I didn't have the time to reach out and connect with my friends and family members with a gift because someone had their first child or somebody was getting married. And so I became a really poor friend. And during this time, my friends had moved around the country, and when I came out of hospitality, I was a bit lonely. I'd been so focused on my business, and my business was my life, that when I actually left my business, I was alone, I was lonely. And I wanted to reconnect with those people that I had kind of left behind. But it was awkward. Hey, how's it going? I know I've not spoken to you for 5 years, so and I'm just trying to reconnect with you. And it wasn't something that I actually felt comfortable doing. And so I thought to myself, how can I reconnect with my friends in a way in which it was comfortable for me using technology? And that's when I came up with the idea for Dusted. So imagine you go to the florist. You give the florist the mobile phone number of a friend or family member. That mobile phone number is attached to an address which is stored on the Dusted database. And that bunch of flowers is then sent to that friend or family member using just their mobile number. You don't have to know their address. You don't have to know their postcode. just their mobile number, which 100% of you already have stored within your phone. That's the simplicity of Dusted. But we want to go a step further. And so we thought to ourselves, okay, so we're building this database. We're building the world's address book. We're building this technology that will allow us to take control of our addresses. So imagine you're moving home. How many vendors do you have to tell that you're moving? You have to tell the gas board, you have to tell your bank, you have to tell your pension provider, you have to tell, DVLA, so many organizations that you have to inform that you've moved your address. With Dusted, tap on the app, find your vendors, send an encrypted message to each one of those in one push. Vendors informed of your address, done and dusted. That's the idea of Dusted. That's what we're trying to build. We're trying to build a data platform that can be moved from one organization to another, data portability and interoperability. Just from you signing up to our platform, entering your details, and because you're now part of a network, your friends and family members now have access to your address. But we've made it even more secure because your friends and family members don't actually get access to your address. They can use your mobile number and they can go to a retailer and they can purchase an item and send it to you using your mobile number, but they don't actually get hold of your address. Only the retailer gets hold of that address. So we're also thinking about security. We're also thinking about privacy. These are the fundamental elements of GDPR. GDPR, General Data Protection Regulations. And these are regulations that are meant to protect you, consumers, meant to protect your data, to make sure that your data is used and stored in a secure way that you want your data to be stored in. I think GDPR is basically good manners. Hello, how can I use your data to do this? Can I use your data to do this? It's just basic good manners, whereby organizations are asking you how they want to use your data. And you can say yes, or you can say no. So the Dusted network that we're building is built on these principles of GDPR, whereby your data is only used in a way in which you want it to be used. We don't sell your data. We don't allow our retail partners to target you with retargeting. We protect and store your data. And finally, because this is a summit about how we can help the Borderless Africa, someone once said to me, how can Dusted be used in Africa? And at the time, I didn't think it could, because as you may know, in some African countries, the addressing infrastructure is not as advanced as it is in the UK or in America or in Europe. And so actually getting an accurate address can be a little bit difficult. But there's a technology called What3 Words, which I don't know if any of you guys have heard about. And what What3 Words does, it gives a square meter an identification of 3 words. And what 3 words would be a great addressing system in Africa? And if we link that to Dusted, whereby you can link your mobile phone number to a what 3 word, then we are empowering individuals in Africa with an address, a location, a delivery location. That's for the future. We are using AI in other tools that we're building. I didn't realize we were using AI. We were looking to build a Alexa skill, and when I was speaking to a colleague of mine from Manchester University, they said, yeah, Alexa is AI. Why didn't you join this program? And the program was the AI Foundry. And so, based on that conversation, I joined the AI Foundry, learned more about AI, and we built this tool with the AI Foundry. And it was an Alexa skill whereby you could say, Alexa, what's Wayne's address? And if Wayne was part of a Dusted network, Alexa would say, Wayne's address is blah, 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 blah. And built into that, we have a security feature whereby if Wayne didn't want me to know his address, Alexa would say, I'm sorry, Wayne does not want you to know his address. So we built safety, privacy into this new tool. We're a long way from where we want to be, but we're on the road. And we've just released our latest app, dusted.com, if you want to have a look at it. It's in beta, so I know that you guys are all techies, or you're all used to using apps. So any feedback, good and bad, and there's no such thing as bad, would be welcome. And finally, I would just like to say, someone said to me once, if you're not speaking to your customers, it's just a hobby. And so I always try and speak to my customers and to people who I value their opinion. Thank you very much. My name is Michael Livingstone, and I am done and dusted.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Thank you very much. Wonderful, wonderful. For the last topic, again, I would like to call on the last panel, and the topic would be data and digitization, as well as international collaboration for AI development in Africa and for the diaspora. So again, I'd like to welcome John Kamara to lead the collaboration panel, and I would like to call Mr. Jao to lead the data and digitization panel. So please, if you can join me. And to support this panel, I would like to welcome Sheila, please. If you want to join, you can pick a side, John or Mr. Jao. I'll let you pick a side. Thank you. And I would like to call on Tony, please. Join Mr. Jao here, please. So again, Tony has traveled all the way from Birmingham. Thank you for coming. So again, we have 4 panels. So again, just share the mic, please. Thank you very much. So I will let panel A go first and panel B. So John, if you go on international collaboration for AI development and how that would connect the Africa and the diaspora. So again, thank you. Go for that.
Thank you very much. I think I want to share that with Ajao here, especially because of the work that he does with the university. So maybe rather pose a question to you. Where do you see the opportunity in the diaspora connection with Africa, and how do you think we can harness this opportunity?
Thank you very much for that question, John. And it's great to be here with everyone. I've heard very exciting things. I've actually been challenged as well. Um, so it's great to be here. Now, going back to the question in terms of opportunities in the diaspora for digitization. Now, as you mentioned earlier, digitization is just similar to automation, but automation is not intelligence. And so it doesn't always translate into transformation. And then the next level, which we're looking at, which is AI. And that's where intelligence sits, because AI is basically machine intelligence. So whether you're talking about machine learning algorithms, or you're talking about deep learning CNNs, LSTMs, that NOSA presented to us earlier, fantastic presentation, by the way. They're all intelligent models, and what that means is they can make decisions without human intervention. Either you set some rules, but they can also learn. Not to go into I'm an academic, so I will not go into the architecture of what an AI model looks like. But basically, in terms of the opportunities for us on the African continent, there are a lot. And I think you and I, John, we've had earlier conversations, during the breaks. An AI model or a system consists of two main parts: the data and the algorithm. Now, I think the PDI model that you presented, John, earlier, or that we are still recovering from, I think it's very fundamental, because people is a very, very important component. And I think, and it's one of the things I'm going to go away with, because we tend to look at infrastructure first, especially for a continent like Africa. So I'll give you an example. Recently, I was in Africa, in Nigeria specifically, and I tried to use my Apple Pay. And then the lady said, no, we don't know about that. It doesn't work here. I was like, no, I've been using this since like when I've been in the UK. And then she said, no. And then I went to Google. There are 54 countries in Africa. Apple Pay only works in 2 African countries, Morocco and South Africa. Nigeria is one of the largest, well, technically, the largest black country in the whole world. We do not have Apple Pay. If Apple Pay stops working in Manchester, it will be a national disaster. So, infrastructure-wise, Africa is lacking. But how do we move away from that narrative that we lack infrastructure in Africa, so AI will not work, there's no opportunities there? But that is very wrong. Troy was talking about, internet penetration in Africa and how that is very low compared to almost 100% that we have here in the UK. But how have African startups navigated the waters to raise billions and millions of dollars from venture capitalists who believe in these little SMEs, in quote? They have navigated the waters by working with what is on ground. You have fintechs coming up with USSD systems that is just built around text messaging. One advantage of Nigeria, for example, and I'm going to speak a bit more about Nigeria. I know there are a lot of African countries I'm more familiar with. Please just pardon the bias. And we'll talk about that shortly. Recent statistics I checked, you went to GSMA. I used to run a telecom company before I came to the UK 12 years ago. And mobile in Africa is big. These companies that have fintechs or startups, they have successfully built business models around mobile phones that could help the unbanked. And so Africa also has that fundamental problem of data. You know, today it's um, they ask you to do biometric registration. Tomorrow is national insurance number, national identification number. Tomorrow is the national ID card. There's a lot of policy somersaults in Africa, and it's very discouraging in investor confidence. But despite all those challenges, people are succeeding. And we need to look at, and like I spoke with some of us earlier, we need to think global, but act local. The technologies are there, and going back to those two components I talked about in AI, you have your data and you have the algorithm. The context, like John told me earlier, is what makes AI unique. If I train a model with a British accent, and I take that same model to Africa, it's going to fail. Because the model is biased towards the British accent. There are a few British people who can achieve some level of success there. However, the majority will be left out. So where does inclusivity come into this? How do we address diversity? What are those ethics that Sharon talked about? How do we ensure that people are not marginalized? Those opportunities will begin to create companies, will create startups that are tailored to the African society, either in the diaspora or on the African continent. So I think the opportunities are huge in Africa because even though AI is changing everything, we need to tailor it. Those models have been trained on foundational, we call them foundational models, either it's BERT or ChatGPT or BARD, but you need to fine-tune them to the domain so that they can give you best results that are unbiased. And there are many ways and these opportunities we need to work with government, with the private sector as well, need to come together to ensure that everyone benefits from this. I think I'll just stop there for now because of time.
No, that was very a good landing ground, first of all, for us to. Now I'm going to go to you, Sheila. I'm going to be the moderator here. So when you think about digitalization, I also want you to think about it from an African context. How do you see the economic value and the opportunity play for a continent like ours? And what are the things that we can learn from markets like this to localize within our own context?
Okay. I feel like that question is really packed because where do I start? First of all, we have a major problem with data, just like he mentioned. And like you said earlier, we can't do anything without data. And in a process where, or in a situation where this data is not actually structured, it's not actually, for example, a fundamental thing that is lacking in most Nigerian organizations. I'm from Nigeria, so I'm going to be as biased as he is. So, yeah. So, a fundamental thing that Nigerian companies lack is data governance. So it's like what's the word? It's not like a priority. You want to digitalize everything. You want to do some digital transformation, but there is no appropriate attention given to data governance. You do not plan how this data is going to be collected. You do not plan how this data is going to be stored. You do not plan how this data is going to be accessed. And the thing with Nigerian people is that we are really suspicious in nature, okay? If you come to me and say, I'm selling this app to you, join us. You will get free monthly returns. You will get this and that, and then all we want is your data. They're gonna look at you like, why? If you know, why do you need my data to give me? Just give me the money. What are you talking about? And that's the thing. You can't say you're creating digital transformation without the people, without communicating how this benefits the people. So when you say international digital development, it's something that impacts everyone. It's everyone's responsibility. And if you're an SME trying to establish in Africa, you need to get the trust of the people first. That's the first thing you need to get. It's not about building your head office or anything. The fundamental thing is you get the trust of the people. You need to explain to them why you need their data, what you're going to use the data for, and how you're actually going to protect their data from being taken advantage of. And it's a huge problem because there are so many opportunities we miss due to the lack of data. During my program, I built a machine learning model that would predict how quickly someone could die from heart disease. And it's a great idea because based on research, I realized that women are prone to dying from heart disease because when they get a pain in the chest, they feel like it's not so serious, I don't need to go to the hospital. A man wouldn't think that. And because of that, in countries like Nigeria, for example, where the health infrastructure is very mediocre, if I'm to use that word, such idea, such technology, such AI model would be very beneficial. I mean, we have one doctor attending to over 5,000 patients. Anyone would break down from stress. But when you have this kind of infrastructure, if you have this kind of system supporting you while you do your job, it makes it a bit more easy for you to understand the ramifications of every diagnosis you make because you have data backing up your findings as well. It's not just a guesswork for you anymore. It's not just okay, it's probably this, it's probably that. This has been analyzed and this is what you found. You have proof that this is what it is. So to sum it up, due to time, the most important thing we need to build on is data. We need to figure out a strong data governance structure, and this needs to be taken as a very serious priority for every single organization if we are going to move forward. This is the major reason why the big tech companies, Google and the rest, have succeeded to this point this day. Thank you.
Very good. I think you should give her a round of applause. That was so going over to you then.
Okay.
Tony.
Yeah.
What do you think it would take for us to see big tech African companies that, you know, connect the bridge between the diaspora world and the global north? You know, what do we need to get big tech African companies who can connect? And what are the first things that we think the diaspora needs to do to be able to bring back this knowledge into the continent?
Okay. In order to answer that question, I think let me just start with a little story. Story is that I'm also from Nigeria, but there's something about government policy regarding international companies coming down to help infrastructure or implement any data-driven projects. The government policy doesn't favor them. It doesn't. Those companies wouldn't be able to come down. There's still the avenue that I believe would be useful and viable, but it would require remote working, remote access. But going all through this process, you still need the data from the local people in that environment to make it work. If, for example, I'm a CTO of Wizen, we're developing a tool that helps handle ethical issues with companies, help also train people in companies regarding diversity and anything regarding diversity to minimize company expenses as well. But one thing I've come to realize is if the data is not available, your product wouldn't sell. For international companies trying to go back to Africa, trying to have an imprint in Africa, they need the local data, not data from the first world country, as my previous colleagues, speakers have said, but they need the data within that local region. And government policies haven't been that favorable to get there. I believe people in diaspora, the only way we could help make that system work, we can either offer our own local knowledge, meaning that for most of us that have background, have knowledge and background from Africa, understands how things work there. Or for example, let's say, let me give another specific example to Nigeria again. I did a project back in the northern part of Nigeria, and I could speak a little bit of the language. But something I got to realize within that project was that purchasing of foodstuff down there is quite, let me use the word cheap, compared to you moving from going towards the south part of Nigeria. And you wouldn't know that if you've not had a presence within the northern part of the country. And with that in mind, I believe if an international company wants to put in any project down there, I have a local knowledge. I'm not there at the moment, but I have a local knowledge that I could actually consult to the company and inform this and this and this is how you could go about this and make this work. But with all this being said, it still boils down to the government policy. The policy doesn't favor the international organization. I don't think it will be easy for them to implement it down there. And yeah, thank you.
Okay, last questions because of time. I'm going to go back to you, Sharon. So he's talked about policy, which is not there, government will, which is a bit difficult. So let's assume all those things exist, which they do. I'm still trying to figure out what will it take and how should the diaspora see going back into Africa as a duty, irrespective of the non-existent policies? What are the things that we should do here in the diaspora, practically, when we know that some of these problems that we're talking about will still exist today?
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. I think this forum that we are in today is one of the solutions to the problem. And I want to commend Adenian Labs and yourself, John, for putting this together because some people do not even know that we have this kind of problem back in Africa. It starts first with, as you mentioned and as we discussed earlier, with building capacity as well. There are ways in which developed countries like the United Kingdom or United States have grown. They didn't have to send everyone to go and do degrees in data science or degrees in computer science to build the infrastructures. They trained. There are programs, there are apprenticeships, there are schemes, incentives to encourage, to support, and to promote, acquisition of knowledge within this area. Now, for Africans in the diaspora, we can transfer that knowledge. And you don't really have to be living there. There are ways by which we could engage. So I work as a researcher and a senior lecturer in data science at Manchester Met. And we have schemes working with some African universities now to transfer knowledge around technologies that are not even new. They're not new, they've been existing. And there are AI technologies that you can use to detect crop diseases on plants through mobile phones. These are powerful algorithms, but we found a way to deploy them on mobile phones in areas where farmers lack internet. And they reside on the apps, and they scan the diseases, and they're able to pick which type of disease is affecting their crops. We're working with drone technologies to look at irrigation problems, based on remote sensing data and AI convolutional neural networks, and to help farmers understand when they are at risk of drought and to take immediate steps. Those are technologies, they are not new, but they have a lot of impact. So, and I think I relate with you, or the effort that was talking about innovation. Innovation does not always have to be new technologies that come out of the box. They could be existing solutions that you think are superior. So I mentioned the problem I had with Apple Pay. To them, Apple Pay was a big thing. And I was like, no, it's been around for ages here. So let's not despise the kind of impact and the lives that we can transform back in Africa, and let's continue to push the narratives, bring the companies on board, bring schemes on board, government organizations, including the AFC. I spoke with a friend recently, he heard about this talk, and then he said the AFC will fund any tech startup in Africa, in Nigeria, that has a viable business idea. And they will discount that, not removing all the bureaucracies that a normal bank will take, credit check director, check business, check everybody, even though there's no enough data to check, So, but they are willing to take that risk because they are committed to development and to see change on the continent.
Thank you. Yes.
Just super quick, Michael. Sorry, when we were doing some work in agriculture, what we found was that some of the universities and so on, they were happy to collect data in certain countries in Africa if there was demand for it. They simply weren't doing it because they didn't think anybody wanted it. So we were calling on it and saying, have you got it in this region, that region? They said, no, we just haven't done it yet. So one source of data, of course, is what's up there, the satellites, the Earth's observations data. So I think that's an easy win, to go in there, put the pressure on, and start collecting the data for agriculture, for climate, for the science, for water, and so on. So where that's not happened, I think that's, if you don't mind me just adding one sort of experience that we had, then I think that's one way to get the data.
Brilliant. So, you then, Sheila. How would you solve the governance of data problem in Nigeria?
How would I solve
Yes.
the problem? Wow. Oh, that question makes me feel like I'm a god or something. Like, how would I solve the problem of?
Solve the problem.
So, first of all, data governance, it's not a new thing. It's not something you have to draft from the beginning, come up with fresh and new. It's not. There are most companies apply that now. Here in Europe, I've read about different data governance frameworks, which are very, very clear and ideal for most environments. So just like Effa said, innovation is not something new. So if you want to solve the problem of governance, data governance in, say, in Nigeria, the quickest thing an SME would do is to get the data governance framework of a similar business. All right, this is just an idea out there. Get the data governance framework of a similar business and then innovate this. I'm going to use the word innovate. Innovate it to suit your business, all right? Because as much as the business is similar, the context would be a bit different. Your customer, your target customer would be a bit different. The kind of data you collect might be different. So you can use that for a start. If you do not have the resources to hire data governance experts, because, they are not cheap. But if you do not have the resources to hire people like that, you can start with this. It shows the intention that you want to be transparent. It shows that being accountable, being trustworthy but to your customers is a huge priority for you. And that would actually get you the kind of confidence, the kind of support you need from your customer base. So if I'm to solve that problem, I think that's where I would start. And then we can move on from there because I feel like we're way behind when it comes to matters like this.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, you had something to say.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. John. Yeah, I think we have to do with a lot of things here. We need to know, for example, let's use Nigeria as an example. Yeah, you need to be able to tell people what they are using this data for. They need to know the data. They need to know the importance of this data. If they don't know, definitely they are not going to be serious about it. So it is only when you know they have their own knowledge about the data. So, and it is not the way data scientists is saying the data, them they are saying the data, so they don't see any importance in it. And what I want the world to know is that we don't know what is coming to us when it comes to AI. I will give you an example. Let's use oil and gas as an example. If you look at oil and gas, it was a big thing. And it comes to a time people think, okay, we don't need to flare gas again because of global warming. But they are doing it in the West. But if you come to the Africa, this thing is still going on. The result is coming to everybody, not only Africa. So if we don't actually bring Africa in every area, when the effect comes, it's going to affect them. And if you look at it, when I was in Nigeria, I have access to some sites. Like, I'm a researcher too. I can go online, take any books I want to. I know the site to do that. Read any book online. But when I came to UK, those sites are not available for me to do so. So what implies is you have to make sure you go to the Africa too for everything to be generalized. If not, it's still going to boil down to everybody in the world. So let them understand the data. If they don't understand the data, they cannot give to you. And a lot of big companies are doing it. I remember when I was in university, Google used to do something like some students were taken to go to the different streets and ask of the business they are doing. Then we don't know what we're doing, but somehow we're giving data to Google to make use of. So I think both the government in the West and in Africa need to collaborate. AI is all about collaboration, both as student, researcher, and government. If not, I think in the nearest future, it's going to be a very big issue to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to wrap this up because of time. Just to say really quickly that the age of AI is here. It's not about to come. And inclusive AI for Africa is extremely important. I believe the diaspora has a massive role to play in helping the continent actualize, realize, activate, and become involved in the AI growth. I also believe the diaspora is a critical part in advocating for the continent and bringing the continent into this next revolution. So, you know, for us, we're really excited that we started this little conversation here today. I want to thank everyone before I give it back to Michael, who I flew in from Kigali this morning just to be here with you guys, because I believe this is really important, and I will take this back to the continent to let them know that people in the diaspora, like you guys, are ready and keen to support this journey. Thank you. Michael.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. I know we're not doing good for time, but thank you, everyone, for coming. Somebody left this. If it's yourself, oh, Sheila, we'll find it. So again, thank you, everybody, for coming. And I mean, we've had a fantastic event today. Thank you, all the speakers. Thank you, panel. Thank you, all the guests. Thank you, the cameraman, the video, everybody that supported this event. Thank you, Mr. Femi. Thank you, Otis. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for being here today.